Hey, everybody, and welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be talking about speaking English fluently,
Okay,
which is something I know a lot of you out there struggle with.
it is.
Um, and you know that feeling, you start speaking English,
Yeah,
and then suddenly you just get stuck.
right.
You can't find the right word,
Yep.
and you overthink all the grammar,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly your confidence just takes a total nosedive.
It's a common experience.
But the good news is that there are techniques and mindset shifts
Absolutely.
that can help you overcome this
Totally.
and speak with more confidence.
For sure.
So before we jump into the solutions,
Yeah.
I think it's helpful to understand why we get stuck in the first place.
Yeah.
What's going on in our brains that causes these fluency roadblocks?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest is a lack of confidence.
Oh,
When we're unsure of ourselves, we hesitate.
right.
You fear making a mistake,
Yeah.
and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, yeah.
The more we worry about messing up, the more likely we are to stumble over our words.
I know that feeling. It's like having that inner critic that's constantly there,
Right.
just whispering doubts in your ear.
Exactly.
But are you saying that making mistakes is actually a good thing?
Mistakes are inevitable.
Okay.
They're actually valuable learning opportunities.
Interesting.
Each time we make a mistake, it's a chance to identify areas where we can improve.
Right.
It's how we grow and refine our language skills.
So instead of beating ourselves up over these mistakes,
Yeah,
we should see them as stepping stones to fluency.
absolutely.
That's a nice way to look at it.
Uh,
But sometimes it feels like the mistakes are less about grammar and more about just not having the right words, those vocabulary gaps.
Those are definitely a major cause of pauses and hesitations. When
Whoa.
we don't have the right word at our fingertips, our brains go into overdrive
Okay.
trying to find a suitable substitute.
Yeah.
And that's when those ums and ahs creep in.
Yeah, it's like your brain just suddenly turns into a frantic search engine, desperately trying to locate that missing vocabulary. So how do we bridge those vocabulary gaps without resorting to awkward silences?
Well, one effective strategy
Yeah.
is to focus on learning common phrases and expressions
Right.
rather than just individual words.
Right.
These phrases become readily accessible,
Gotcha.
chunks of language that flow more naturally.
That makes sense. So instead of just memorizing happy,
Yeah.
I might learn, I'm delighted to hear that, or that news brings me so much joy.
Exactly. So you're not just expanding your vocabulary, but also internalizing natural sentence structures,
Right.
which is essential for fluent speech.
Confidence and vocabulary are definitely big ones.
Uh-huh.
But I think there's another factor that often trips us up, overthinking.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself mentally translating every sentence from my native language
Right.
into English,
Mm-hmm.
and it really slows me down.
You've hit upon another major fluency killer, overthinking and translation.
Yeah.
When we try to translate directly, we get bogged down in the grammatical differences between languages.
Okay.
And it disrupts the natural flow of thought.
Yeah, it's like trying to fit square blocks into round holes.
Exactly.
Doesn't work.
Mm.
So how do we break free from that translation trap and start thinking directly in English?
That's a skill that develops over time with practice.
Okay.
But one helpful technique
Yeah.
is to start incorporating English into your daily life as much as possible.
Okay.
Even simple things like describing your surroundings,
Yes.
narrating your actions in English can train your brain
Yeah.
to process those thoughts directly in the language.
So I could be like, okay, I'm making my morning coffee.
Yeah,
The sun is shining through the window.
exactly.
My cat is judging me for not sharing my breakfast.
Exactly.
It might feel a little silly at first,
Yeah.
but I can see how that would start to rewire my brain.
It does.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we've got confidence, vocabulary, and overthinking
Yeah.
as major fluency culprits.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest. Sometimes it's just plain old nervousness that
Absolutely.
gets in the way. You know that feeling of your heart racing?
Yeah.
Your palms are sweating,
Uh-huh.
and suddenly all of the English you thought you knew,
Yeah.
it just vanishes.
Public speaking, even in our native language, can be nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah.
Add in the pressure of speaking a foreign language, it's no wonder we freeze up.
So how do we tame those nerves and prevent them from hijacking our fluency?
Well, the key is to remember that everyone makes mistakes,
Okay.
even native speakers.
Right.
Fluency is about communication, not perfection.
Okay.
It's about getting your message across,
Right.
connecting with others, and expressing yourself
Yeah.
clearly and confidently.
So instead of striving for flawless perfection,
Yeah.
we should focus on the joy of communication
Yes.
and the satisfaction of expressing ourselves in another language.
For sure.
And when we shift our focus from perfection to connection,
Yeah.
we release some of that pressure
Exactly.
and we allow ourselves to speak more freely and naturally.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've identified the 4 fluency culprits.
Right.
Confidence, vocabulary, overthinking, and nerves.
Mhm.
And we've even started to explore some ways to address them.
Yes.
But now I'm really curious to dive into those practical techniques
Okay.
and mindset shifts that can help us actually speak more smoothly and confidently. What have you got up your sleeve?
Okay.
I am ready to unlock my inner fluency superhero.
Okay.
So what are some of those practical techniques that can help us bridge that gap between knowing English
Yeah.
and actually speaking it?
Fluency, just like any skill, requires practice.
Right.
But it's not just about mindless repetition. It's about targeted training that strengthens different aspects of your speaking ability.
So like working out at the gym.
Exactly.
You're not just going to randomly lift weights. You have a plan.
Right?
So what's our fluency workout plan?
Okay, so one of the most fundamental exercises is expanding your vocabulary and sentence patterns.
Okay, that makes sense. But just memorizing lists of words,
Yeah.
isn't that kind of boring and inefficient?
Yes, it can be. But instead of focusing on individual words,
Okay.
try learning them in context. As part of common phrases and expressions,
Okay.
this way you're not just learning isolated vocabulary,
Right.
you're internalizing natural sentence structures.
So instead of just learning happy,
Yeah.
I might learn I'm absolutely thrilled or that news fills me with joy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And by learning those phrases, you're getting a feel for how those words are actually used
Right.
in natural conversation.
It's like having a mental toolbox
Right.
filled with all these pre-assembled language components
Mm-hmm.
that you can quickly grab and use.
Absolutely.
What other fluency training tools can we add to that toolbox?
Another powerful technique is active listening.
Okay.
The more you expose yourself to English, the more your brain gets used to processing
Yeah.
the sounds, the rhythms,
Yeah.
and the structures of the language.
So we're talking podcasts, audiobooks, movies,
Yeah.
music,
Uh-huh.
anything that immerses us in the world of English. But it's not just about passive listening.
Right.
It's about really engaging with the language.
Exactly. It's active listening.
Okay.
So try to focus on the pronunciation, the intonation, the way words are connected,
Right.
the overall flow of the speech.
Paying attention to the details.
Right.
And really absorbing the nuances
Exactly.
of how native speakers use the language. So while you're listening,
Yeah.
try to anticipate what the speaker will say next.
It's a great little game.
Conversation anticipation.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's a fantastic way to sharpen your mental agility
Okay.
and get used to that natural flow of conversation.
Turning listening into a game.
Exactly.
You're not just passively absorbing information.
Right.
You're trying to predict what's coming next,
Yeah.
which forces you to think ahead and process the language more quickly.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to try that one. Now, I've heard of another technique called shadowing.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what it is. Is it like following someone around
Yeah.
and copying everything they do?
Okay.
So shadowing is listening to a native speaker
Okay.
and repeating what they say immediately afterward.
Gotcha.
Trying to mimic their pronunciation, their intonation, and their rhythm.
So like being their echo,
Exactly.
trying to match their voice
Yeah,
and delivery.
exactly. It's incredibly effective
Okay.
for internalizing that natural pronunciation
Okay.
and getting used to speaking in those longer chunks.
Training your tongue and your brain to work together more seamlessly.
Exactly.
Okay. Sounds challenging,
It is.
but also kind of fun.
It can be a lot of fun.
You mentioned earlier that fluency is like a mental muscle
It is.
that we need to train.
Mhm.
Are there other brain-boosting techniques that can help us achieve that fluency?
Absolutely. One that might surprise you is to imitate native speakers.
Okay.
Find a speaker that you really admire.
Okay.
Maybe it's from a podcast, a TV show, even a friend,
Yeah.
and try to copy their way of speaking.
So their accent, their intonation, rhythm, the way they phrase things,
Yeah.
all of it.
By immersing yourself in their speech patterns,
Yeah,
you're absorbing those subtle nuances
exactly.
that make their English sound so natural.
Mm-hmm.
Learning by osmosis,
Yeah.
you surround yourself with the language
Yeah.
and you let it seep into your subconscious.
Exactly.
And the more you expose yourself to authentic English speech, the more your brain is going to start to automatically process and produce the language in a similar way.
Exactly. You start to internalize those natural rhythms and patterns.
So it's all about training those neural pathways
is.
to think and speak in English
Yes.
more effortlessly. We've covered vocabulary building, active listening, conversation, anticipation, shadowing, even imitating native speakers. These are all fantastic techniques.
They are.
I can already feel my fluency muscles getting stronger.
Yeah.
But I know there's one more crucial piece to the puzzle.
Okay.
Actually putting these techniques into practice.
Right.
And having real conversations.
That's where the magic happens. So in the next part, we'll explore some practical exercises that'll help you bridge the gap between theory and real-life conversation.
We've explored the reasons for those fluency roadblocks, and we've learned some powerful techniques for smoother, more confident speech.
Yeah.
But now it's time to actually put all of that knowledge into action.
Absolutely time to put it into practice.
Give me those fluency challenges.
One of my favorite exercises is the 1-minute speaking challenge.
1 minute of speaking. That sounds intimidating.
It's simple but effective.
What if my mind goes blank? Or I just start stammering?
That's the beauty of it. It forces you to push past those hesitations and just keep talking. You can choose any topic that interests you.
Okay.
Set a timer for 1 minute and speak about it without stopping.
So it's not about being perfect
Nope.
or grammatically flawless. It's about building that speaking stamina.
Right.
And getting comfortable with the flow.
Exactly. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just focus on keeping those words flowing.
If a minute feels too daunting, could I start with like 30 seconds?
Absolutely.
And gradually increase the time as I get more confident?
Start small and build your way up.
Okay, like training for a fluency marathon.
Exactly.
Starting with those shorter sprints and then building up to the full minute. What other fluency boosting exercises do you have in store?
Here's another one, story retelling.
Story retelling.
You find a short story, a podcast episode, maybe even a scene from a movie that you enjoy. Listen to it attentively, and then try to retell it in your own words.
So it's not about memorizing it word for word.
No.
But it's about understanding those key points.
Exactly.
And then being able to express them.
It's a fantastic way to practice
Wow.
both comprehension and fluency.
That's cool because you naturally incorporate new vocabulary and sentence structures without even realizing it.
Exactly. You're not even thinking about it.
Yeah. I'm thinking of all the fascinating stories I could retell. What else can we do?
If you really want to accelerate your progress, try speed conversation practice.
Speed conversation. Does that involve talking really fast?
Not quite. It's about getting comfortable with a faster pace of conversation. You want to train your brain to retrieve words and construct sentences more efficiently. Find a speaking partner. Maybe a friend, a language exchange partner, even yourself in the mirror. And set a timer for a couple of minutes. Then have a conversation where you focus on responding quickly without overthinking.
So just pushing past that hesitation, getting those words out there, even if they're not perfectly formed.
Exactly. The more you practice this, the more your brain will adapt to that faster pace, and you'll find yourself speaking more fluently and spontaneously.
Adding speed conversations to my fluency training regimen. Are there any tech tools that we can use
Absolutely.
to enhance our practice?
Speech-to-text apps can be helpful.
Like those apps that transcribe what you say?
Exactly. You speak into the app and see how accurately it transcribes your words.
So it gives you real-time feedback
It does.
on your pronunciation?
Yes. Helps you identify any words or phrases that you're stumbling over.
I never thought of using those apps.
Yeah.
For fluency practice, we've got the 1-minute speaking challenge, story retelling, speed conversations, and speech-to-text apps. But I know there's one more crucial element we need to address, the mental game. Because even with all the right techniques, sometimes our confidence just isn't there.
Fluency is as much about mindset as it is about skills. So let's talk about some powerful mindset shifts that can help you speak with more confidence. The first shift is all about embracing those mistakes.
Embracing mistakes.
Remember, mistakes are inevitable. They're actually valuable learning opportunities. So instead of fearing those mistakes, reframe them as stepping stones on your path to fluency.
It takes the pressure off.
It does.
To see mistakes as just a natural part of the learning process.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm giving myself permission to make mistakes.
Good.
What's the next mindset shift?
Focus on communication. Not perfection. Remember, the ultimate goal of language is to connect with others. To share ideas. To build relationships.
So it's not about sounding like a textbook.
No.
Impressing people with perfect grammar. But using language as a tool for meaningful interaction.
If your listeners understand your message, you're successful. Don't get so caught up in the details that you lose sight of the bigger picture.
Okay. Fluency is about connection, not perfection.
Yes.
What's that final mindset shift?
Speak with confidence, even if you don't feel it. Projecting confidence, even if you're feeling nervous, makes a huge difference in how others perceive you.
Gotcha.
And how you perceive yourself.
So stand tall, make eye contact.
Yeah.
Speak with energy and enthusiasm.
Exactly.
Even if I'm feeling butterflies in my stomach.
Yes. Fake it till you make it. Okay. And the more you practice speaking with that confidence, the more natural it becomes.
Okay.
And as your confidence grows, you'll find that your fluency naturally follows.
This has been such a helpful deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much. From understanding those reasons behind those fluency roadblocks to practical exercises to mindset shifts. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for boosting my fluency and speaking with more confidence.
Good.
So what's that one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Pick one technique, one exercise, one mindset shift that resonated with you today, and start practicing it.
Right.
The more you put these strategies into action, the more fluent and confident you'll become.
And remember, mistakes are part of the process.
Absolutely.
Embrace them, learn from them, and keep speaking. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of English fluency.
It's my pleasure.
Until next time, keep practicing and keep those conversations flowing.